live in the Bay Area. We're only about 30 minutes away.
Where do you live?
And Fremont.
Oh, yeah.
And there's Fremont, Newark, and Union City that we call the Tri-City area.
It used to be, and then there's another one, Castroville or something.
Castro Valley,
No.
no?
Warm Springs.
Warm Springs?
Used to be Warm Springs.
That's South Fremont.
There was a place that used to make movies, or Newark.
Niles.
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 And that's exactly where we're doing our work, so we have to talk about that. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin was from Niles.
I know, and those
Did movies there, that's right.
Those movies were made there.
Okay, a little bit about ourselves. We go to Prince of Peace Church, which is in Fremont. We've been there for, seems like a very long time. I don't even know how many years. We got married there, we had our children go to school there, and so Christy and I have been very involved in a lot of the ministries. School, confirmation, young adults, but the high school ministry. And so she and I would just kind of go through as our kids went through, and we try to figure out how we could be useful. And what we learned by doing that is we like to serve people. We like to serve those that our kids were associating with, and then once they moved on, we go, well, what are we going to do next? And so in our presentation today, we connected with an organization called Compassion Network, did some stuff within the Tri-City area, and then that's when it kind of blossomed into something else. But we've always been very service-minded. And so, let's see, my wife works at the church. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about it.
Just kind of how we started down the path to take part in this portion of our ministry was I was part of the long-range planning team. And so that was kind of where I stepped in, and we were talking about community service for Prince of Peace, making it a big part of our identity. And so that was kind of how I started that.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the project that we eventually took on. It's called the Niles Mobile Home Park. As you go in through what's called Niles Canyon, which is, it's a kind of a windy road through the mountains, there's a small community there. And we'll go through and I'll explain how we got in touch with them and how we're helping them. But that's what we're going to talk about. And anyway, we'll go on to the next slide here. Most people that we talk with, it could be very overwhelming with trying to get something going. And so what we really want to communicate today is that it's not as hard as you think. And we'll kind of go through the steps we went through. You could model it the same way, or you could take what we did and adjust it to whatever you'd like to do. Oh, that reminds me. I wanted to find out, first off, where y'all from. So who's from an hour away?
Where?
An hour away, just from here, an hour away.
We're not a.
Yeah. So, okay.
4 blocks.
4 blocks. Who's 5 minutes away? Couple hours away. Okay. 4 hours away. Like up and way out. How about more than 4? Talking with Bob a little earlier.
Almost 2 minutes.
Yeah, and also it would help me to understand what you're looking for from kind of this topic. So are you looking to try something like this at your church? If you are, raise your hand. I think so, okay. You're just interested, you wanted to see kind of what we're doing and see if it might be applicable? Okay, good, okay. All right, well, then we can fit both needs then. Oh, well, and then those that didn't raise your hand, you're for another reason. If it's coffee, I think that's coffee. All right, so anyways, go on to the next slide. It's not that hard. We've been really happy how it's turned out for us. So we started with a vision, so we'll explain what our vision was and how it got us to where we are today. We had decided to adopt somebody, so we went through some steps to figure out who would we adopt. And that was really important, using the word adopt. We just didn't want to come in and go out. We wanted to stay with these guys a long time, whoever we chose. So we called it adopt. We found a partner, and then we started small and built successes. So each of these areas I'll talk about. And then we established our ministry within the church called Many Hands to Help. It's kind of funny, when we say we're from Prince of Peace, they have no idea what we're talking about, but if we say many hands to help, they light up. They go, oh, hey, we remember you guys. So we'll go through a few slides of what we call happy residents, their stories, and then some testimonials from those that have been helping. I encourage questions while I'm going through the slides, so feel free, you don't have to wait till the end. So our vision. So as Christy said, about, I guess it was 2.5 years ago. First off, our oldest son is a pastor out in Tennessee, and he shared a book with me. And the book was a gentleman who was going through some searches in his life. He wanted to know if there was more to life. And so he started, his story was that he started working with folks within colleges and communities and such, and he started realizing that there's a need out there and that he was looking at life very selfishly, so we started looking at it selflessly. And Josh said, hey Dad, I think you need to read this book. And of course I'm going, I don't need to read this book, I'm always helping people, right? Really gave me a different perspective. And so my wife and I started thinking about, well, you know, how do we do something like that within our church? So we started talking with our long-range planning folks, and we said, you know, we really need to do more in our community. We need to be present. It's not that we want our names out there. We just want to know that we're really serving those that we interface or come into contact with in our community. So we said, what's our vision? So we wanted to say we want to be in our community. We don't want to just be in the building of Prince of Peace and on the periphery. We want to be able to be in our community. We want to serve our community, and then we want to be known within our community. So all these, I use the years because it's they kind of work together. You have to be in first, then you serve, and then once that gets going, then you're known. And we actually, we've been doing this for a year now with Niles, and just the other day we had one of the band members come up and tell me that he was talking to a fireman, and he says, they've heard of us and the work that we're doing. And I'm thinking, wow, it's already starting. This is good news. So, go ahead, next slide. So first off, we had to, like I said, adoption was very important to us. We had to discuss what does adoption mean to us, and we came up with three areas. One is owning the relationship. When we first started talking, people in our church were very interested in serving, but they were only doing it once a quarter, once a year, once a lifetime. You know, it was very sporadic. And so we were saying, look, you know, we really want something where we own a relationship with emphasis on owning a relationship. And then we had to get the church behind it. So we wanted the church to fund so that we could do this relationship. And then we wanted commitment and dedication from our church members to do this. And so by identifying these three areas for adoption, we go, okay, let's go find somebody where we can kind of take this adoption idea and go out and talk to somebody. And we wanted to start somewhere, but we didn't want to start big. Up until now, Christy and I were working with the next slide, go ahead, which is Compassion Network. And we were doing small activities. Christy and I would go build ramps or weed, and we would go to larger mobile home parks. And it was like 1,000, 1,500 units, and we're going, this is really too big for us to undertake. There must be something smaller. And Christy, you can say anything you want here, because when we first started talking, I go, how about Tropic, mobile home parks? She goes, no, that's way too big. So we started thinking, who could we work with? But the first part is we started with Compassion Network, and this is a faith-based nonprofit. They work in the Tri-City area, and basically they work hand in hand with the Fremont. They're actually in the same offices as the Fremont City Hall, right? Resource Center. And so if the city can't work with some of these folks, there's just too many, then they say, Compassion Network, can you help? And Compassion Network has a large group of churches and there's a liaison from each church, and a weekly newsletter goes out. Here's the needs, and then the churches respond. And in 7 years, Christine, who's the director here, the city really relies on her and the churches to fill a lot of needs within our community. So, and what's interesting is, I don't know if you guys know this, but in city or government areas, you really can't, you're discouraged from sharing your faith. And actually, because of Christine's position and ability to help, she shares her faith and her group's mission all the time freely. And the city just says, hey, you guys do such a great service, we don't really care, thanks. So, I mean, it's a great way to see a good partnership. And they serve over 10,000 annual requests. Yes, sir?
So, let me get this straight. You actually went with the city to get this kind of started?
No, we didn't. We started with Compassion Network. So Christine and Compassion Network started 7, 8 years ago, and because of kind of the ability for her to work with the city, we said, let's partner with Compassion Network, and that started getting the church and people involved in community work.
With Compassion Network, you say it's for the Tri-City area. Are there organizations maybe in other areas like the San Jose area or San Francisco that are similar?
So we were actually just talking about it. That question came up. We don't know.
There is.
There isn't. Okay. Part of what we can discuss as we go through is how we might be able to help you identify how you could get started. One area would be, well, who do you want to serve, or what do you want to serve? What would be the demographic? Is it underprivileged children or families? Is it the homeless? Is it a senior park like this one? You know, identify that, and then identify who could you talk with about getting engaged.
Thank you.
I really love the idea of like joining God where He's already working, instead of coming up with the new creative idea that's just for the church.
Yeah.
If we don't have, obviously, resources like this, can you talk about other ways to partner? I mean, can those be with nonprofit agencies, community organizations? Do you have any feel on that? Because this seems very cool, but it's very...
It started here, yeah, it's very
Right.
local. Hi, John, by the way. John goes to Princess Pizza as well. The only way I think I can answer that is we would go back to Christine and say, Christine, do you have any contacts in these areas that we might be able to share with somebody in their local area? If not, I think I'd rely on her to say, well, how could they get started? You know, they don't have a Compassion Network type organization. Is there a nonprofit, or is there a city official or group of officials that they could contact with? And then you got to kind of break ground at that point.
I
Can you
think
talk
one of the things you could do, like we've done community work with schools, is to touch bases with the principal there and start with that person, or a mobile home park. Our relationship really started with them when we started talking to the manager of the park. He was putting requests monthly into Compassion Network. That's how we got to him. So if you go to a mobile home park and you talk to the manager, then you can kind of build a relationship with him. You can go to a school, vice principals and schools love the help that you can give them now, because they don't have any money. They have no resources, no janitors, and the schools start to look very dire very quickly. So that's what I would say. If it's a food bank you want to create, then you can start doing that with the city resources office. Our dilemma was, because we have a school, we could not bring the project to us. We had to go off campus because there's a whole set of concerns with kids on campus and having a shoe pantry or a food closet, that type of thing. So that was why we went out and found something within the community. And Compassion was the catalyst for us at the beginning, but I think it's totally feasible to go out and reach out to those individual communities that way.
Have you noticed at all during this time that people have come to Christ through any of these efforts that you've made?
Yes, we'll share some of that at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yes?
Another question I might check is the chamber. The chamber knows about all these things a lot of times. And the police department, they can kind of sometimes head you to the right person. to
Yes.
talk to.
That's a
And
great suggestion.
also the Family Resource Center in your cities. The Family Resource Center is very much integrated with Compassion Network, and so they are always in communication. So because your community won't have one of these probably, because there isn't another one in California. I asked Christine this past week, but that's who they're mostly connected with in the city offices.
Why, tell me what, I guess I'm trying to get, it's important to find a partner so you're not reinventing this yourself and getting discouraged when you can't figure it out or break
Right.
the problem. That's
Right.
really what you're trying to get at
Yeah.
with this, is find someone who's got expertise so that you can work with them instead of making it up on your own and failing.
That's what we're saying, yeah.
And I think Christine, if you go to the website, her contact information is there.
Yeah, I saw that.
She is all about making this a bigger thing. She's been instrumental in organizing Make a Difference Day for the city of Fremont. The city of Fremont hired her and said, do this for us. She's done it for 2 years now. Last year, the city of Fremont won the national award. They got a $10,000 grant because they had so many participants, and it all went back to the church. The church is who was behind a fair portion of those volunteers. A lot of community-minded citizens, but more church people than anything else. And so then they've asked her to take on a couple other projects throughout the year that are city-based, and she would share her knowledge with you very welcomely.
Let's go to the next, oh wait, question, and then we'll go to the next slide.
Well, I was just gonna ask, I mean, you're talking about a lot of, I mean, clearly the church can serve its community in a variety of different ways. And how did Prince of Peace, when you talk about the idea of you're owning the relationship, how did you end up getting connected with the type of service
So
that you're doing as a whole church?
that's
You
our-
might get to it.
That's our next slide, so we'll great segue. See, that's why I left you for the last one. Real quick though, I know it's kind of small on the page here, but if you go back real quick, Christy, the internet address is compassionnetwork.org. So at least then you can get in contact with Christine. Like Christy said, Christine really would love to see what she does just explode through the state, through the nation. So anyways, I don't think she'll be the only one doing that, but she would love to see that vision. Okay, next slide. So we started small, and we worked on building the small successes. So the first thing we did is we made it part of our outreach ministry team. As Christy said, it was part of our 5-year goals, and one of those goals was to establish an outreach team. They first just started with doing the food program, right, at Centerville. What's that called? The dining hall, yeah. So they would just contribute money or some time to some of feeding the homeless in the city, in one part of the city. And then through Compassion, then we started to help do the Hearty Harvest, which is a seasonal thing where they would get names of folks who didn't have money for a Thanksgiving dinner. So the churches would go and say, okay, give us your name. And then the churches respond by a basket of a Thanksgiving meal, turkey, fixings, etc., for 4 people. So that's one thing we did. And then we participated in, Christy was saying, the community day, which is we would go to a mobile home park typically because they had a lot of needs. We had about 30 to 40 people, and we could bring them and go do weeding and some minor repairs. And it started also with a passionate and community-minded volunteer. Her name was Lori. She's since moved on, but she passed on a legacy. Christy and I kind of picked that up. But she was the one out leading the charge with Compassion Network at the church. So it really needs someone passionate, and it needs, like the gentleman back there was saying, someone you could partner with. And then we did these few successes, and it just kept kind of growing and building, and pretty soon, Christy and I said, hey, we can do something much bigger. Yes?
Yeah, I must have missed part of it. Is your ministry a coalition of many churches, or is it just one ministry out of one church that started out small?
This right here is our ministry within our church, but we partner with Compassion Network, which is the coalition of churches.
Okay.
But they're really 2 separate.
2 separate things.
It was just kind of how we got integrated into community service.
Right.
That was where it started, but then we created our own project.
Right, and that's important to know because it was work with the coalition, and now we wanted it to be our church's activity, something we could own, fund, and drive.
So all of your volunteers are from your church?
Right.
Okay.
So we established Many Hands to Help. We came up with a really cool logo, and we wanted to adopt the mobile home park. And so we had a informal relationship with the park manager. So Christy and I remember the day we went over to Manny, is his name, and we went to Manny and we said, we know you, you kind of know us, but we're here to adopt you. And he goes, what do you mean? And we said, well, we have this idea, you know, we've come out every year in June to pull weeds, fix some things, and have a barbecue, but now we want to do this monthly. And we want to, if you go back to the adoption slide, right, we want to adopt you. We want to have a long-standing relationship with you. We want you to know that you can count on us and that you're going to be part of our family. And he's gone, yeah, I don't really believe that, right? And we said, it's okay. We didn't expect you to believe us right away, but we're going to show you how we can do this. So we explained that we want to do things on a monthly basis. We want to be in front of the resident meetings. We want to meet the president. We want to go talk with folks. So we just started doing that, and we
For free.
yeah, all for free too. Yeah, and again, there's skepticism, right? You know, Christy and I, they don't know us. They don't know Prince of Peace, but we said that's fine. You know, we gave ourselves a year to kind of start engaging with them and build a relationship. And so it started small, and it started a little awkward because they didn't really believe us.
And they might not have trusted you.
Yes, exactly. And so part of what we did is we made the logo, we passed out magnets, we said, look, this is real. You know, we went out to each of the residents' homes and put a magnet, a flyer. I think we used Lifesavers just to give them some candy. Went in front of the resident meeting and we said, hi, I'm Mark, this is my wife Christy. We're here to adopt you. They had a lot of questions, you know, and we said, here's the first event. It's 2 months from now. There's a list. You know, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. Why don't you tell us if you need help? And so, real quick, I'll get you guys. So that's how we started, and then month after month after month, about 4 months, you know, we got a few activities, and we walked around the neighborhood, and they saw us present, and then now in the last few months, we just have a long list of things, and they want to know when we're coming back, you know, because now they're expecting us. And so we've kind of created the trust and the relationship. Let's see, what else do I have real quick? We like to get stuff done, but it's better if we spend time with the residents. And so while we're working, we will talk with them, you know, and if things don't get all the way done, that's okay. You know, we're talking with them. We'll say, hey, you know, we'll be back next month. We'll take care of such and such. And they're going, great, I'll see you then, right? And we even have people, as we're walking up and down the street, they're driving by in their car and they stop and they want to talk with us. So anyways, the trust and the relationship is growing and building, and that's really good for us. It happens sooner than we thought. So, but we got to keep it going. So who had the question back in the background? Yes, sir, Pete?
Yeah, I got a stupid question, and that is that, how big is your congregation?
I'm gonna guess that you're kind of wondering how many people it takes to do that. Our congregation is, well, if you go by roster, it's over 1,000 people, but we worship about 500. It's a huge blessing. This park is 167 units. So that's why we felt that was manageable. And we should probably mention it's also a senior resident. There's nobody under 55 in there. So that was kind of why we picked that community, because we said, okay, let's serve the senior community. Our school kind of takes care of the younger generation. And this was an area that we feel like, you know, they're kind of tucked back in the hills and they've got this park and it's beautiful. And, you know, a lot of people there are working. But there are also a lot of residents whose family is not present to help them with minor repairs. And so that was why we felt we could do that need. As far as involvement from our congregation, we've had, the last 2 times, we've had about 40 people come out and help. But it varies anywhere from 20 to 40, and it's all by God's grace that we've had enough people to do the work. With the exception of this last month, we hit our first month of rain. So God gave us a window of 3 hours. We had 20 people out there. We were able to take care of, you know, some of the needs. We've got a bigger list going now for our April, because we go back the 4th Saturday of every month. We made it a regular date. The community has a magazine that they put out every month. It's kind of like their newsletter of events. They let us put an ad in there every month for free, as long as I always am very conscientious about saying it's all for free. Because to what your comment was earlier, this community of seniors, you have to get their trust that you're not taking advantage of them. And so as long as we say that all of our services are for free, then that the management above the local management is fine with us being there and doing that work.
Can you share real quick the ages of the volunteers that we have?
We have, it's a great experience when you see a couple of these pictures will show you. We've had families come out there, we've had babies in backpacks, you know, with their moms, and they're going around and they can visit while the other work is being done. We've had other seniors coming out to help the seniors, and one of the things we didn't mention that we've made part of it is every Saturday at 10 a.m. the park has like a coffee hour there. And what they use is they get a delivery every Saturday of day-old pastries from the local grocery store or vegetables, you know, whatever Rayleigh's has left. So they would just glean from that and offer coffee and these day-old pastries. And I said, well, we're not gonna have day-old pastries, we're gonna have a hot breakfast. So we have a crew of about 6 ladies who every month, we put out a list at church and we say, can you make a casserole, can you make some muffins? We get different people to sign up for that, because some people like to serve that way. They don't like the hands-on, that's a little bit uncomfortable. So we wanted to find a way to get the whole community of our church involved. So we bring breakfast, and we serve breakfast, and we make the coffee, and then the residents all come down at 10, not all of them. I think there's probably 30
30 to 40. Yeah.
30 to 40
Pretty regular.
residents that come. But then we have a group of people that they can't do the physical labor, so they come and they visit. So the residents are sitting down to have breakfast, and so then what they do is they'll sit down and they'll start visiting. We've been able to do the outreach part of our ministry by, you know, just talking to them about our faith. They ask us every time, why do you do this? Why are you doing this? Because we want to help you, we want to serve you. That's what God calls us to do, and so then that brings it in, which then has brought, we've had, I think 3 people show up at church, a couple of them regularly. Mark and I were rejoicing in the pews on Christmas Eve. Manny came, the
The
manager.
park manager showed up on.
We were so excited. I saw him go in and sit a few doors behind, and I think I overwhelmed him with my hug after church. I was like, Manny, I'm so excited to see you here, and it was just such a blessing that,
And
you
she's
know.
gotten a phone call from a lady just out of the blue. She goes, hey, you know, I really want to come to church tomorrow. What should I wear?
I haven't been to church in a long time. What should I
I really
wear?
need to come back to church again. We're going, this is fantastic.
And we have given them our phone number and said, you know, our phone numbers are
It's
on the magnets, and we say, you can call us anytime, you do not need to wait till we get here. And we've got a couple stories later on, but very much constant communication with them.
So questions, sorry, you, yes?
So what's on the magnet, what's in the ad?
On the magnet is this logo and that, and then it says, call us for anything that you need. I should have brought one, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Call us for anything you need, and then it has my cell phone number and the church's number.
Good.
And it's funny, because they actually call the church before they call my cell, which I don't know why they picked that, but they do that.
So it says your name and the number and then Prince of Peace?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the number?
But this right here, we go with the logo. It's very big on the newsletter, on the magnet. We have badges, so anytime, if they see us and they see a logo, it's instantly recognizable for them.
So when the volunteers come, all the volunteers are wearing a badge
Yes.
with the logo?
Yep.
Yes, we did that too, because we were very worried that there would be question about who we were, because when we were passing out the magnets, one person came out and said, what are you doing?
Who are you and why are you
We were clipping
here?
it to the mailboxes, and we said, no, we have permission, we can do this.
Well, I showed her my badge.
Yeah.
And she goes, oh, I know you guys, okay, thanks. And I'm thinking, I'm glad you asked, and I'm glad we got to share the badge with you.
And then the ad, what I've done is I kind of remind them of things we can help them with. Do you need help with indoor cleaning? Do you need your windows washed? Do you need your gutters done, which is a very popular
Very
job,
popular.
weeding? And then we remind them that we're gonna have breakfast and what time that is, and that they're welcome to come.
So breakfast is like from 8 to 10 and then you start your volunteerism after that?
Actually, breakfast is at 10. We have everybody come down at 9. And we go out and we start doing our volunteer work. And then we tell our volunteers, if you'd like to go out, go have breakfast, or stay out and continue working. Not everybody wants to stay for the breakfast time. So they'll go out and they'll be working, and not all residents go to the breakfast. So I keep tabs of who goes to breakfast so that we don't go to their house while they're at the clubhouse.
Right.
Oh, when you go to the person's house, you knock on the door and say, we're gonna start
Yep.
weeding your yard now, or something
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
that?
that's how we get the volunteers to engage with it, you know, they could opt just to go and start working.
Yeah.
We say, no, why don't you go, knock on the door, say you're here, I'm so-and-so with Many Hands to Help, and, you know, then you start the relationship, right? And then sometimes the residents will come out and sit on the porch while you're working, or they'll talk with you. You know, it's just anything to get the conversation going.
And what's on your we don't do these things?
We don't go on the roofs. That's what so far we've gone out, and we have that in our ad. We have to do
No
a
roofs,
evaluation of
No
if we
plumbing,
can
no
or can't do.
electrical.
We've done a little bit. We fixed a couple faucets.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
We've done
No
that.
major plumbing. Anything that, you know, tradesmen would do, we don't. Because we don't want to carry the liability and the.
We were asked to
ongoing-
take down, I think it's a 40-foot palm tree. I said, can't do that one,
Can't do
sorry.
that.
But
But we've
we've
taken,
chopped down some trees.
yeah, we've taken down small trees, cleared, you know, vines that, you know, it's like a jungle, we've cleared them back, so.
Do they own the land that their trailer is on, that you can go on, they give you permission
Yeah.
for their land?
they do.
Actually, they don't own that land, they rent it.
Yeah, But Manny gives us permission.
Manny gives
You
us
have to have it
permission.
open,
Yeah.
yeah.
But like this past month, he checked in with me and he says, you know, what about you and these chainsaws? And I said, really? I said, you know, I had to reassure him that we were being very diligent about who we were having these chainsaws, and that we were being careful about who got on ladders. And then I reassured him that everybody's personal insurance, because this is a volunteer event, their personal insurance would cover them if something
The
happened.
church doesn't carry an extra policy for
Not for this event, because it's off campus.
Yeah, so we rely on personal
We
liability.
don't,
And then I think Manny, you know, his concerns are, what do we have to carry as far as liability? So, yes.
Well, you spend this one Saturday a month. Does it take you a lot of time to prepare? I mean, do you have a lot of networking? How much time are you investing prior to going out there?
It's funny because it all comes into the last week before the Saturday. I put a list out every month. It sits out for a month at the clubhouse where they can come and just sign up. They write their name, their space number, and what they want done. Then I go out there for a visit on the Wednesday before we go, and I meet with Manny, and we talk about maybe some units that didn't ask for help, that need some help because their yards are getting out of control and the management wants it cleaned up. So we'll add any of his items to that. So that's about a less than a half-hour meeting that he and I have. Then I go back and I take a drive through the park with this list, and I estimate how long I think each of the jobs will take. Is it a 30-minute job? Is it a 2-hour job? Sometimes we've had like our small confirmation groups come, and I know I need 5 or 6 people to work. Some of them have a hillside behind their unit, and those take a lot more work. So I spend about probably another hour doing that. And then I just make up job cards, and that's what I pass out. The people pick what they want to do. And so I say maybe 3 hours.
You have to contact a lot of these people and say, like for instance, if somebody says they need a lot of yard work, that takes a certain amount of physical, people that aren't gonna hurt their knees or their hips or their backs or whatever. And so there's gonna be certain people that can do it and some people that have physical
This
limitations.
is why and that was the first time we went out, I thought, okay, people are gonna show up, I'm gonna give them the jobs to do. And then I quickly realized, that's me picking it, and really they should pick what their limitations are. So that was when the second month I started with the job cards. And so you walk up to a table and you'll see the job cards and you'll say, this is 30 minutes of weeding, this is chopping down a tree, this is washing windows, this is.
So you do that day or at church?
I do that during the week, I do that, get the cards ready, and then I put them out that day,
That's
So
the part.
the day of, right. And so the people, we ask them to sign up ahead of time for, generically, this is what we're gonna do. Wash windows, do weeding, then they know when they get there that they can look at the jobs that specifically would meet what they're able to do.
You
And
mentioned
you do
something
what's
about
left.
insurance. I work for, volunteer for several organizations. And those where I had to transport people, various things like that, all had insurance. Do you have insurance coverage for anything?
our church does have liability insurance. And if something were to happen, our personal insurance would cover it first, and then the church liability would kick in
Oh,
after that. But
Yeah, and right up front, when you're negotiating with like the managers, you let them know that you're a ministry and a church, right?
Mhm.
yes, we did, Nanny knew that.
Immediately we did. One more question, then we'll go to the next slide, sir.
It's easier, I think, when you have a huge church or bigger church comparatively. But when you have a small church, 100 people, congregation numbers, are your volunteers always the same people? You used to have 100-something people. Are they always the same people?
About 40 people, and actually, I'd say about a third are regulars. About a
Because
third.
if it comes down to a small church,
Yeah.
then you get, 5, 10 people that is very enthusiastic doing this.
Yeah.
If you keep doing this month and month and month, you get very tired.
So you don't have to do it monthly. If you have a small group, I would suggest doing it quarterly.
Yes.
And start small. It could be it could be working with a local nonprofit to serve food. I know when I was doing confirmation, I went to the homeless shelter, and once a quarter, I know John did too. John and I would go there and we would serve dinner once a quarter with our kids. That was very manageable for us. And so I agree, depending on the size of the church, you can do larger and grander things, but if you want to start small, that's one way you can do it. Okay, let's go to the next slide real quick.
Bless you.
Bless you. So we already kind of covered some of this, but the kind of the makeup of our volunteers is our pastoral staff, we have 4 pastors, and each of the ministries that they guide, they encourage their team members to encourage others to participate. So we've benefited from that encouragement from our pastoral staff. We have what we call journey groups, which is very non-church faith-based, and so they're participating. So that's what we call our young adults. We have our youth and confirmation classes. Are you guys familiar with Stephen Ministry? Yes, so we have Stephen Friends, which is those that will just go to listen and talk with folks instead of trying to address a need. If they just want someone to talk and listen, we use Stephen Friends. And then Bible study groups or small group studies will have, they'll pick, hey, this month we really want to do something, what can we do? And so they'll kind of come alongside us and help. We even had Boy Scouts, so we sponsor a Boy Scout troop, and the Scoutmaster is the drummer in my band. So I said, hey John, guess what? We have an opportunity for you. He goes, yes, let's go, And so we had them painting numbers for all the addresses in front of the units, and that was a 2-month activity.
Do you do Bible study at the park?
I'm glad you asked that. I actually wrote down future here, so if we can hold off to that to the end. But yeah, we have grander plans. So, but it all we have grander plans, but we all started with service. Let's see. Lastly, we actually had a couple folks just recently show up and say, I need to fill some community service hours. Can I help you? Can I work with you? And of course, we said yes. Let's go to the next slide. So anyways, here's some happy residents. So like I said, within 3 months, we've had people, they started telling others within the community, and that was, we wanted it to go viral. So when we first started, we had residents that we helped probably for the first 2 months, and we said, hey, by the way, can you tell others? And they go, oh, sure we can. And so that's really helped proliferate what we do with the other residents, because sometimes residents can't get out, or they can't get out when we're there, so they're really unknowing. They maybe missed the magnet or the flyer, so word of mouth is great. So we've had people do that, and we already talked about how many residents we serve. And I don't think we got to talk about this, but there's one lady every month puts lemonade out by her home, and as people go by, don't forget the lemonade, I have lemonade, and she's just, it's good lemonade too, so. But yeah, we have that. Just this last weekend, Christy and I were working on a hill, and there was a resident helping us. She was out there, there was a lot of weeds, but she was out there helping us, and this is not uncommon. They like to come out and talk and help. And we already talked about some attending our services, and we have this prayer shawl ministry at church where people will make a shawl, and then the pastors will bless it, and then we give it to someone in need. And so we just showed up this last week. She goes, I made a shawl for you guys.
Huh.
And I want you to have it as part of your ministry. We're going, wow, that totally surprised. We had no idea that something like that would happen.
How did she know? Did she get the church
I think
newsletter?
I think what happened is during the breakfast, one of the ladies who's part of the prayer shawl ministry mentioned it. And, again, just casual conversation as they're eating, etc. And all of a sudden, it yields something like this. It's a blessing to somebody else. I think I have a couple more, yeah. Remember back in the vision, we wanted people talking about this. So if you talk to residents today, they'll say what we do for them is we do things that they can't do. They're not quote unquote over the hill. They can't get to things that they used to get to before. So we get to do that for them. I remember 3 months ago, we were just setting up and this guy says, hey, can you mow my lawn for me? My back is really, really bad right now. And I go, 5 minutes? Sure. So right there, we just mowed his lawn. And I'm thinking it's those little things that just really add a blessing to someone's life. Like we said, we use Stephen's Friends, and then also casual conversation at the breakfast. We want to listen to what's going on in their life. Establish that relationship. That way, when we come back, we can say, "Hey, how's your dog?" Or "How's your back feeling today?" Things like that. We've had some folks that are just kind of sad, seasonal things or something going on in their family. We get to talk with them about that. And then Christy reached to a lady who her eyesight has failed. And she says, I really miss stories, I really miss the news. And Christy says, I'll read to you. Now, it's funny sometimes because you have to read loud. Her hearing's also going. And so I decided to come with her. And
That's because she's 101.
oh, I forgot to mention that. She's 101, and she is going like gangbusters. I love it. So anyways.
Do you try to connect them to other resources like the Association for the Blind or any other organizations? Because they have, I'm just thinking of that one particular instance, but the question is broader than that. Do you try to connect them
We try,
to other resources?
Yeah, well, we tend to do it within the church, so like we have Stephen Friends or somebody else that has.
So you try to keep it within the church?
Well, no, but your idea is a good one. I don't think we've reached out yet, but that's a great idea.
Mainly just because she has a very active family that's involved in her life. But what they said is when you get to be 101, when you get to be 101, all of your friends have died. And so the only people that come to visit you are family.
Mm-hmm.
And so she does listen, she's got books that she listens to on CD. And then, but she says, I really just miss sitting with somebody and hearing them read.
Yeah.
But here's the awesome part, she's not a Christian. And so she hears that we're from the Lutheran church. So she asks me, can you read me a book about Martin Luther? Tell me who Martin Luther is. So
Well, it's
I
a
have,
blessing. It's a plus and a minus to that, right? Because if you read some of books
Some
about
Martin
Luther,
stuff.
but then she doesn't get going until like 12. I mean, it takes her a long time to get her body going for the day. I mean, her mind is spot on. It's fascinating that I can read this very dry book about Martin Luther.
and she asks questions.
Asks me questions.
Yes, I
They
went with
do.
her to listen. I'm going, wow, this is really dry. And at the end, she goes, I have 5 questions.
But the really neat part is we brought her breakfast. We bring her a breakfast later in the day when she's up and about. And then one of our Stephen friends started visiting her and she said, I'd like to read the book also that Bill O'Reilly wrote, the Jesus Killing or whatever. Right, Killing Jesus. So they've been reading that together. So she's got a couple of us that come and do that. But here you are, you're sitting with a 101-year-old woman who is not a Christian. She knows who Jesus is, and you're like, this is why the Lord has kept you alive for this long, is because we need to get you this message.
It's like Nicodemus, There's a particular time, purpose, we're here.
And she's so cute, because you call her up to make an appointment. Well, let me see, what do I have?
Very cute.
She's an absolute
So
doll.
you do that at a different time than the
I
Saturday
do.
one?
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to orchestrate a lot of stuff on the work day there, so I usually try to go back.
Have you
once
figured
a
out
day.
who does the work?
Yeah.
And we don't want to give you the impression that we're running this entire ministry ourselves and having the connection. We're just the hub. There's a lot of other people helping us make this successful. So like I said back a few slides, it takes two passionate people, that's us, but we're not doing all the work. So we try to keep it very manageable.
Just quickly, how long have you been doing this?
We've, for the last 3 years, we went every June. We went in June, we would have one work day once a year and a barbecue.
With worship, we would have the praise band there.
They let us bring the praise band out and kind of just set up in the clubhouse. So we did that for 2 years. And then it was kind of about that time that we started getting into discussion with Manny about how to do this on a more regular basis and he would call Compassion and say, I have 3 residents that need weeds pulled, do you have somebody that can do it? And then somebody may or may not fill that need. So then we said, let us do it exclusively. And that was really where we started to see everything grow. We said, Manny, just work with us exclusively. Don't send your requests there anymore. And we talked to Compassion about it, and Christine was fine with it also. But that was how we were able to, one, narrow our focus a little bit, do the fully adopting community, and it's allowed us to take ownership. And that is what's given us a lot of ability to do things that we see will make an impact on their lives.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you go into their homes if they need help in there, such as wipe down the cabinets or anything like that? Do you go in and?
Have not had a big request. I was very surprised. I thought we'd have a bigger request for house cleaning, which I wish we did, because that's a task that more people can do. The weeding sometimes gets hard on the people's bodies, that they have to do that. But changed light bulbs, we flipped a mattress, we flipped a couple mattresses now.
Yeah, but it gets you to see how their quality of living and if they need outside resources.
Well, and it's really interesting you say that, because before we adopted Niles, Christy and I went to a lady who was disabled, and we cleaned out. It was a kind of a hoarder situation. And we were able to go in, clean up, but then also give some feedback to the social worker that was working with them. And it turned out really positively, but that, we're kind of hoping we do more of that with Niles over time, being able to see what's going in. But yeah, we've gone into the homes that we have gone into are well taken care of at this point.
I don't know if this would give anybody any ideas, but when we had a relative back in Texas who she was elderly and unable to do a lot of stuff in her house, and they have an organization called Christmas in Action. And what they do is they get people from the community that have specific skills, and they volunteer and go over there, and they do a lot of things for people. Like our cousin, these people came in and worked on her house. They did all manner of things. But it was I thought it was a great name too, Christmas in Action.
Yes, yeah.
But it was just people that had a skill, and they'd pull them together, and they'd go do it. And then nobody charged
They
them.
also had a good fundraiser coordinating things.
But it started, but it was a very focused, whoever was leading this, a very passionate and focused person to kind of move it forward, right?
Yeah, but people would call and say, my porch, my railing on my porch is falling down and I don't know how to fix it, and my husband died, or I don't have a
That's
husband.
right.
And so they don't know how to do that, and so somebody would just go over and fix it.
That's right.
It's sort of like Habitat for Humanity. However, Habitat doesn't go overhaul houses.
Yeah.
And they would go to these slum houses and overhaul them completely.
Oh, wow.
Plumbing and everything.
Really? That's fantastic.
Just whatever the skills were, they would pull it in.
There's a question back there?
I'm into the nitty gritty. So do you always take a ladder there, or, are there people with trucks from your church that always show up with a ladder? How do you know when you're gonna need one, and?
We basically have a set of tools that we collect,
All
or
the
that we
gardening
have,
stuff?
and we just I bring it all. I happen to get a truck, partly because of this reason, although we've realized we have so much trimmings that we've been renting a trailer and just throwing it in the back of the trailer, it's
Yeah.
kind of easier, but.
And then what? What do you do with that?
They have
Well,
a bin
they
on
have
site
a
that
big
we
bins.
can put stuff in. But, I mean, what we've done is we've received some donations from from the residents, and so we've gone out and purchased additional equipment. So we have electric chainsaw, we have electric trimmer, any tools that we were missing and that we borrowed from people that brought theirs, we started backfilling using the donations.
So you just bring that every time?
Every time we bring it.
So you're not using any church funds for this?
Actually, our community service team went ahead after we asked them to put it into their budget, a monthly amount. So I think we get,
10,000, I think.
no, that's Compassion
A month?
Network.
Oh, that's
different.
compassion,
That's
oh, sorry.
I think we get $100 a month, and that allows for us to purchase any food, but we've been able to get most of that donated. We have used it to buy a couple of the tools, but one of the great things is the residents don't want to take advantage of us. So they say, please let us make a donation. And at the beginning, I said, no. And then I realized I need to say yes, because that's how they feel like they're paying for the services. So we have them, they go ahead and they pay it, and then I put that into our Niles fund, and then that grows, and so as we have a need, then we can go back and use that. But we do get financial support from our church.
And that helps us buy bulbs and things that, when we're doing little things like that. And again, the residents can't pay for that, we'll take care of it. Or we replaced some window parts and stuff like that.
And one more nitty-gritty question about the food. So you're going on Saturday morning, now you're asking people at church to give casseroles. When are they giving them, and how are you heating them, and how are you keeping them, and?
They usually bake them and bring them to us.
Oh.
They'll just come over to
To
the
the park.
park
You're that
and bring
local.
them. Or they'll bring them to one of us the night before, and we'll heat it up and bring it. So.
Yes, ma'am?
I think I've lost it. Wait for it. So
You're too young to have
Our congregation has done kind of a, not at all this kind of thing, but okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna try to go out into our community and have an event. And that clearly this is something that there are members of your congregation that are very much behind and they wanna serve. How, aside from the fact that they keep showing up, so clearly there's interest there, how do you like debrief that, okay, you just went and had this conversation with someone you didn't think you were gonna have, they just started talking to you about faith or asking questions, like, how do you help the members of your congregation, I guess, prepare and process and reflect on?
You know what's funny is if we do presentations at the beginning of service or the pastor talks about it, the memory doesn't stick long. And so what we've resorted to is we just use word of mouth. We tell pastors, the pastors will tell the other ministry leaders, and you just get this circle of communication going, and pretty soon, someone that you hadn't talked to directly talks to somebody because they heard, and it's all word of mouth.
And then
It's very
those
organic.
people that have come into a need, where like I had somebody where I needed to get them connected with one of our pastors because he was kind of distraught. It's just that communication back to whatever part of our church can help them, then we do that.
And what's great about that is it doesn't put Christy and I front center. It's now, it's a living organism within the church, right? People are talking about it. And, I mean, really, we put our sights about 3 to 5 years from now where it's just our DNA. But, it's not there yet. But it's starting, right?
So it's really the people who are participating, sharing their experience with other people.
Yeah.
This is germane to what you're talking about, dear, because the Holy Spirit will do exactly what God wants us to do. So we're planted where we're supposed to grow, and then He takes care of all the details on
Yes,
that.
it's great.
He'll just work in their hearts and they'll do it.
Real quick, before we end, when we first started this, Christy and I said, what's the first baby step that we can do, out of this large effort, and it was serving, right? And we want that to be our DNA going forward. But really, we talked about how can we share the gospel? How can we kind of build the relationships larger and larger and larger? So things that we talked about is how can we get confirmation groups in to play games with the residents? They really miss playing games. How can we read to them? How can,
Teach them about their smartphones.
Teach them about their smartphone. Gosh, we said, if we could do anything for you, what could we do? And they said, can you teach us how to use our smartphone? So we had some of the teens come in and show them how to use a smartphone. That was really successful. And it's that kind of stuff. How can we get them not just doing tasks, but, you know, one-on-one, you know, Bible studies. I mean, I was just talking to Pastor Ben Johnson, who's our newest pastor. How can we start having Bible studies? So we're starting to talk about that. And we think the timing's about right. You know, it doesn't have to be, you know, really hard Paul to the Romans type stuff, right? It could be, you know, let's just talk about how God has influenced our life and hear what they have to say and see if we can weave the gospel in when we're talking to them, right? So I think we're on the cusp of doing that, but ultimately that's where we want to go, is we want to have this be a holistic ministry. Do I have another slide? I forget. I gotta get through the slides. Oh, this guy, he's part of a family, and he said it was great to be able to deliver breakfast to a resident who could not get down to the clubhouse for breakfast. So he walked it down there and handed it to him. That resident was super happy. And then it's always a great feeling when you ask him to do something that is overwhelming for a resident, yet so simple for ourselves. Isn't that true? Oh my gosh, we go through seasons of life. Why not help those who can't? And we can. It's really simple, right? And it was fun to help the residents learn about their smartphone. So there it is. So anyways, do we have our contact information anywhere?
We'll talk to them.
No.
We're over time.
You
Bill says it's okay.
Finish up.
Let's see, so here's Christie's contact information at Prince of Peace. Kay Woodrow, I don't know if it's there, but KWOODROW at popfremont.org.
At what?
popfremont.org.
You can find it on the church website too, which is just the popfremont.org, and there is a staff person.
Thank you.
I'd give you my email address, but I only get to everything.
You don't have an actual website then for your hands?
No. However, I am looking to see how I might be able to use Twitter to kind of create more social engagement and awareness, but I'm still looking at it.
So she's a staff person, but she's not a paid staff person, is that correct?
Christy?
Yeah.
So Christy is a paid staff
Oh, she is a
person,
paid.
but she's made, this is what she does in her off time. So, but
She's not paid to do this.
she's not paid to do this, nor am I. This is our.
Am I paid to do half of what I do as a church secretary?
Oh my gosh, so we won't go there.
Another overpaid church secretary.
So I think that's it, John.
One comment that I would like to make is I think if you could take away from here, Mark, wonderful, and there's so much stuff here to think about. But really take away from this the idea and the thought that the size of your church does not matter. Because one person can make a difference, and two people can make a difference. So don't walk out of here going, well, that's a big church, and we could never do that. You can't. Size does not matter.
Thanks, Jeff. Great, well, thanks for coming. Mark?